Why are different people like Andrew Tate and Sneeko flocking to Islam?
See all over Twitter, all these churches are losing their mind. It seems very complicated. Islam seems very, very simple.
How many days have you been a Muslim for?
I said the words and everything when I went to the mosque. I was pretty private about it for a while.
Well, in the latest interview with Sam Harris, he went on Chris Williamson's podcast and they started to unpack why more and more young men are converting to Islam at drastic rates. And one take from Jordan Peterson that will completely shatter most people's perception of Christianity, while at the same time pointing out some things about Christianity that some of us have been saying and others of us would like to point to for others to reconsider. So this video is going to be a doozy. It's probably going to trigger you. Sam Harris has done stuff with guys like Jordan Peterson. He's an author. He's a thought leader. He's an atheist. He has been very hostile towards religion historically. And Chris Williamson is a pretty massive podcaster in the men's space. Stay till the end of the video because there's one underlying thread in all of this that is not accurate. So just stay till the end.
Of Westerners choosing to convert to Islam in adult life. Obviously, you spent a lot of your career criticizing Islam, and now we have, I don't want to accuse it of LARPing. These people very well may truly believe in the doctrine, but...
He called them loppers. They said LARPing, which is like, it's like cosplay.
I saw Andrew Tate's conversion. Well, I mean, Islam is just mimetically, it's perfect for a specific audience. You know, it's a explicitly macho religion, right? It's a no religion, right? It's just
Wow.
Ain't that good?
Sheesh.
This man said it's a no religion. Now watch what he says next.
with Christianity, you have to pretend. Yeah, well, you have to pretend to be happy to be losing for the longest time, and you're basically just waiting for Jesus to come back and rectify this grave injustice. Like the meek shall inherit the earth. You're just, there's no putting this place right. We're not going to win until we see, Jesus arrive on trailing clouds of glory.
Now it's interesting because Sam Harris is friendly with Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson, when he talks about that verse, the meek shall inherit the earth. Have you heard his breakdown of that?
I have, but I don't remember it.
Okay, let's look at that real quick, guys. What if the very things that Christian culture often dismisses as worldly actually aren't bad desires? What do I mean by that? It's obvious that the world values things like money, fitness, fame, and immediate gratification. But I like to propose that those natural human desires can actually be redirected with God's words and God's ways of doing things in order to bring glory to Him and serve our neighbor on this side of eternity. And I like to call this very concept God-driven ambition. And we'll be unpacking all of this at my very first live podcast in-person gathering happening August 26th in Oceanside, California. We'll have GodLogic Apologetics, Pastor Jeff Moores from Rhythm Church, John Keith, Trizzle Fitness, and hosted by my guy Ray Rock. Lock it in on your calendars right now. Saturday, August 26th in Oceanside, California at Rhythm Church. Click the button down below or go to RuslanLive.com to get more information and get your ticket now. Okay, so here's the Jordan Peterson clip. Some of you guys have seen this, but just juxtapose Sam Harris's position. And by the way, I am not saying that Jordan Peterson has the orthodox authority on how he's interpreting this verse. I'm just presenting you guys an alternative to this, like, be a pansy until Jesus comes back view that's kind of being presented. But listen.
Meek shall inherit the earth. Meek is not a good translation, or the word has moved in the 300 years or so since it was translated. What it means is this: those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. And that's another thing I've been telling. Yeah, no kidding. That's a lot different, man. That's a big difference. It's so great. And so, like, one of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think, is that you should be a monster. Because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no, wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it. The line.
I love that.
Interesting, right?
I love that. I love that because the character in the Bible that's described with being most meek is Moses. Because Moses had almost a unlimited connections to God's power, right? And yet he had restraint with it. Literally, it said to the point that at the end of That doesn't mean that he didn't make a mistake and smite the rock, but to the point that when he's being described in that last chapter, Deuteronomy, it says that Moses did terrifying acts. You know what I mean? Like, and not in a negative sense, but they were so grand that it was terrifying to see that level of power. And so it's fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we always talk about here: become the priest, provider, protector.
That's right.
Right. That a godly man is all three, not just one.
I guess there's one Christian sect where they do have an expectation of kind of winning, 1,000 years of millennial glory until and then Jesus comes. But for most.
That's postmillennialism.
That's right.
And so it's interesting that he notes that most of Christianity is unappealing to young men because of its everything is terrible, everything's bad, we lose down here, might as well be docile and just suck, right? And it doesn't overtly state that in any scriptures, but that kind of becomes the conclusion some people have, not all people have, who hold to this type of a view that the world's going to go really, 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 really bad. What's the point of even trying? Because Satan is the god of this world and everything is terrible and it's all a big conspiracy to trick you.
Most Christians, it's a story of failure, and then they get to say, look, we were right. Jesus, came back. Yeah. With Islam, there's an expectation that they're going to conquer the world, right? And there's an imperative to conquer the world. And for serious Muslims, it's like you don't have to be impatient necessarily. You can take as long as you want, but we all know this is moving in one direction, and you need to be a spiritual warrior. And if you take this really far, if you become a jihadist, right, you're especially doctrinaire, militant, true believer, well, then you're a kind of spiritual James Bond. I mean, it's like you get to be Jocko and care about and know that you're going to go to paradise, right? Like, so you get all the tools.
He said a spiritual James Bond.
it's this first person shooter that literally you get all the good guns. Like, it's not this boring, I'm pretending to just I'll turn the other cheek, thank you, sir, can I have another? And where it's a high T religion, right?
High T religion.
Wow.
High testosterone.
And that's why a schmuck like Andrew Tate thinks he's had a real insight.
Whew. Now, there's one thing he gets wrong here. The entire presupposition of this question is flawed.
Right.
When people say that there's all these people flocking to Islam, you know how that's happening? Birth.
Yeah.
There's more people deconverting from Islam than deconverting from Christianity. So Islam is growing by sheer volume through birth.
Yeah.
Not through conversion, not through I was raised one way and then I convert and I start following Islam.
Right.
Right? It's the total opposite. It's Christianity is actually growing when we're looking at how many people are converting from other faiths and worldviews. When you look at what's happening in China, when you look at what's happening in a lot of these underground churches, right? And so to me, how you measure if something is actually growing isn't who's having the most amount of kids, though having kids is important. It's how many people are saying this is more truthful in a society that costs me everything for following the thing that's more truthful.
There's more strength and restraint than just showing people how dominance. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's what gets confused is dominance versus dominion.
Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.